From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Welcome to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. My guest today is Mark Hegstrom from St. Edna, Minnesota. And Mark has a really well-named company. It's called Business Owner Succession Strategies. The acronym is B.O.S.S. Easy to remember, easy to recognize. Mark is CEPA. He's a certified exit planning advisor. He's got 20 years of working in 401ks. He's a certified plan advisor. He's an accredited investment fiduciary. And his Bachelor of Arts is in economics from the University of Minnesota. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, John. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. How are you today?
Fantastic. I get the luxury of wintering down here in Florida, which is 1,500 miles away from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it is 85 and sunny out.
That's about what it is here in San Antonio today. My assistant, Sarah, is off today because her cousin from New Jersey, from New York, actually, she's NYPD, is down here to do an extradition. And she left like 19 degrees yesterday to fly down here, where we were 87 yesterday. So
yeah,
I'm
nice.
sure it's a nice gig for her. Tell me a little bit, I usually start out what led to your decision to work with business owners on exit planning, but you have the story right here in your bio and about your dad and his practice. Why don't you tell us that quickly? It's amazing how many exit planners got in it because somebody in their family didn't have an exit plan.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. My dad was a dentist, and as such, he'd lean over a lot and say, open wide. And as a result, the discs in his back began to degenerate, especially in his neck. And he said, I'm just in pain every day. And he was young. He was only 62. And he said to me, do you think that I should renew my lease? And I said, well, how long is it? He said 5 years. And I said, well, I kind of put everything on pause, and I thought, wow, nobody lives longer than 74 in your family. And I began to explain that to him. And I said, it might be time to get started with your retirement. You've got this pain, you're aggravating. And, he thought about it and he thought, yeah, I'm going to need to do that. The problem was, John, is that he had to stop saving for his retirement right then and there. That 3 months later, he was able to implement his internal succession plan, which was good that he had done all that planning. But I don't think he was really ready to exit at 62 with the amount of money that he wanted to exit with. And it reminded me a lot of the 5 Ds that happen and we talk about. And I thought, I just don't want that to happen to other people. And I don't want it to happen to me either. And so I'm a planner because of that.
I noticed you sent me some notes on this, and it's like, I really like your last paragraph. We expect to grow from 300 million AUM to $1 billion in the next 10 years. I will exit on June 30th, 2032 at 4 p.m. That's pretty much nailing it down.
Yes. Yeah. God willing, right?
Yeah. Man plans, God laughs.
Yeah, I set that exit date out there because I almost every time I open up a slide about exit objectives to a business owner, it always reminds me, I say, I'm going to exit on June 30th of 2032 at 4 p.m. In fact, it's in our calendar. That's when my retirement party begins. And I said, hopefully you can come to that. But I'm always reminded about that I've set that date because I've done myself such a big favor by picking the bottom axis of the a squared plus b squared equals c squared triangle. You know this because it's in your program. And knowing the distance, now if I know what I need to get at that time from the gross sale of the business, then I know what c squared is. I know what it has to grow at. And really, I think just sharing that with a lot of business owners has helped them to figure out, wow, I need to get started.
Yeah, I have the same experience, and it's amazing. When they pick a date, and then they start seeing the chart, and they're like, well, then they start playing with it, right? Well,
Right.
what if I work 2 years longer?
Right.
What if I could grow the company 10% more?
Right.
And sometimes they make statements, and I don't mean to mock on my clients, but they'll make a statement like, so if I save more, I could retire earlier.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. That's the way it works, right?
Right.
You think it's intuitive, but perhaps not. You say that your 4-phase program deviates from the traditional EPI model because you act as coaches through the process. And the name of this show is the Exit Planning Coach. We're passionate about the coaching part of it.
Yeah.
Much more than the technical or process part of it. It's interesting. Your 4 phases are laid out better than a lot of us. I have 2. I have discovery and implementation. So you want to just quickly describe the 4 phases?
Yeah. Thanks. The 4 phases. The first one is where we do an assessment of, we call it the 3 legs of the stool. To create that exit plan is financial readiness, business attractiveness, and personal preparation or personal preparedness. Those 3 things we do an assessment about. And then in that first phase, we also do a business owner financial plan. And in the financial plan, we design the exit strategies. It's in software, which I'll tell you about later, but that's what we do in phase 1. It takes 4 months. It's 2 meetings a month, takes 8 meetings. We start with, how much do you want to sell it for? How much do you, to whom do you want to sell the business? And when do you want to exit? And in the 8th meeting, we present the plan. So that's phase 1. We kind of combine the so-called triggering event and all that into this first phase. We don't do an assessment for free or any of that stuff. It's just all part of phase 1. Phase 2, we go to the lawyer and CPA and have these experts help to implement and de-risk the plan. So we'll do buy, sell, stay bonus, things like that. And then phase 3 is when the business owner will build value in the company and get the value to where they need it to be at exit. A lot of times I talk to business owners who say, yeah, I heard that, or I'll say, yeah, your business might be worth 3 to 5 times EBITDA. And they go, yeah, I've heard that. And I ask if their EBITDA is $1 million. And I say, so that means it's between 3 and 5 million. Yeah, that's right. I go, well, what is it? 3 or $5 million? There's a giant difference.
A little bit of a delta there,
those,
yeah.
Right? So if you want the 5, phase 3 is about building value. And phase 4, John, the last phase is the last phase of the exit planning journey. And that's 6 to 9 months. And that's when they hire a business broker or an investment banker to take that to the finish line. And by the time they're done, by the time they get that check or wire into their account, their trust account that we've set up for them, they're well planned. They've got their house in order. Their business is at maximum value, and they know what they're going to do after. And that's the way we structure this.
That's great. Oh, that sounds terrific. When you're talking to her, you said you give a lot of webinars, and we'll talk about your marketing in a little bit. But when you're doing one-on-one, with a prospective client.
Yeah.
What's the turning point? What's the magic thing that you say that they go, how stupid can I be? Of course I need you to help me with this.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I think the turning point is when I ask them, because we do almost all we do all of the delivery of everything via Zoom. We invented it before Zoom became popular during the pandemic, but we are doing the sales call during this too. And in that sales call, I have a 4-phase program called
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah. It's called Hell, Heaven, the Turn, and the Close. And they're about halfway through the 1-hour call when I'm talking to a business owner. I've asked them all kinds of questions about what they've done and how they've built their business. And then I kind of have them sit in it a little bit with that hell piece. Like, well, why haven't you done the planning? And it's kind of uncomfortable. What do you think your wife thinks about it if you died this afternoon? And they really start to get sort of uncomfortable right when they really, I don't want to lose them, right?
Right.
So that's when I immediately pivot to heaven. Well, what if you did have a plan? Do you think you'd feel better about that? Yes, I would. Would you mind if I shared my screen? And that's when I open up. We have a Prezi slide deck that is very appealing to the eye when we go through it. And that is probably the moment that they're like, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows. And they've probably been to a webinar already. They've been to our website. They've engaged in some other thing. And so it's not like it's the first time they're ever hearing that, but it's all reaffirmed at this point.
I like that. Heaven, hell, the turn, which sounds like 7 cards, Texas Hold'em, and the close. But that, and we talk about that, and certainly, talking with as many advisors as we do, coming in with a script, coming in with a system, having a process. And it's the same for everything we do. I mean, exit planning is a regular nuts and bolts business strategic plan with a finish date.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's the date that makes it the implementation much easier. I had been in the consulting world before this, and the date was always the problem. Yeah, that you're right. This is a great plan. This is terrific. Let me take it and put it on my credenza behind my desk, and I'll get around to it.
Yeah. And we know that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. It becomes credenza-ware, collects dust, and if you're lucky, they take it down for their strategic retreat next year and freshen it up before they put it back and ignore it for another year.
Right.
Now, having a date makes all the difference in the world. Let's take a break here for just a minute, pay for the podcast, pitch the exit map, and then come back and finish this up. Hello, John F. Dini here, and I'm very excited to announce the publication of the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. Inspiration for the handbook comes from my 25 years of working as a coach to business owners, with 12 of those years dedicated to helping them plan their business transitions. It is a guide for advisors that explains why working with business owners is so dramatically different from working with other executives. It provides insights on how to approach planning conversations with owners more effectively. Plus, it takes you through the steps that will help you develop your relationship as their most trusted advisor. I wrote this book for advisors who want their clients to move on to a second act that's even more rewarding than their first. If you read any of my previous books, you know I don't lecture. It's a conversation between two professionals. If you work with business owners, I strongly encourage you to read the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. I think it will quickly become a go-to in your reference library. It is currently available on Amazon and the Kindle store in paperback and as an audiobook. Welcome back. We're here today with Mark Hegstrom from St. Edna, Minnesota. Where is St. Edna?
Yeah, I must have mistyped that because it's
Adina, isn't it?
It's Edina.
Edina. Okay, sorry
Yeah,
about that.
that's okay. Edina is a well-heeled community in suburb of Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do they have tunnels there too?
The habit trail, you mean the skyways?
Interesting thing, and thanks for this material you gave me, but you talked about ideal clients and you said 55 to 65, but then expanded 40 to 70. How much? I know I've heard, EPI's latest survey said that much younger business owners are considering exit planning. Are you seeing that in your practice? Are you seeing those people coming in?
We are. And it was interesting. I had my first exit planning client was 37.
Wow.
And when he was 39, we were in that phase 3 of our program. And I said, Jordan, now he's young. I said, Jordan, I think that you should not go in anymore. And he tilted his head and he thought about it a second. And our next quarterly meeting, he gets on, well, I took your advice. And I was like, what advice was that? He said, the one where you said, don't go in anymore. I said, yeah, how did that go? He said, my staff looked at me and they kind of looked down or whatever and said, yeah, that's all right. And I said, what are you doing now? And he said, well, now I'm in Sedona on vacation with my family. And I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, actually, I'm sitting out here on the Lanai area, and I'm actually writing out my business plan for the next school that I'm going to start. He has this school. And I thought to myself, and I've told lots of people this, John, I said, our advice doesn't cost $1 million. That's just what it's worth.
Yeah.
Was to him anyway, because now he's going to double that profit and be able to sell his, he's going to be able to rinse and repeat. And that was great. I'll give you one more just because it happened and you got to hear this.
Sure.
This woman, she's 43 today. And she wrote me an email. She said, 4 years ago, you spoke to us at our national convention and you said something about succession planning. I have a question about that. That was the email. And so I call her up, or I email her back actually. And turns out she's 43 and she had a question about something I said 4 years ago. And she became a client an hour later because it took her through that process.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So the 40-year-olds know they need to do this and they need to get ready for it. And it's not so much when they're going to exit, because when you get so far out, boy, these things really change.
Sure.
But they need a coach. They need help.
Yeah, they do. We all see it. I know my business, so I know how to sell my business.
Right.
And it's not as hard. I gotta admit, it's not as hard as it used to be 10 years ago to convince people that maybe you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an issue that keeps? What's your pet peeve with clients? What issue keeps coming up that makes you nuts?
Well, I don't know if it's, drives me crazy or not. I think it's probably more with the people who say that they want to talk to me about exit planning, but they really don't. And this is the thing, is, to me anyway, this is what I find, is that they hate the word exit.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't appeal to them. I don't know if they like, they don't like it in front of the word map. They don't like it in front of the word plan. They don't like it in a sentence about them, because they don't really want to exit, but they know they do. And so what bugs me is that the sales cycle so long. I'm if you follow the process type of person, And I just ask them, either you're going to say yes or no. We can only take 2 new clients on a month, and we're moving on. So if you don't want to, call me when you're ready, but
Yeah.
don't drag me along your process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I leave them alone. I have one right now that called me up 4 times, and we had lengthy conversations. He sent me his valuations on his companies. He's got 2 companies. He sent me, big,
Okay.
thick valuations on both of them. And I sent him a proposal and haven't heard a peep,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
I know what I wanted to ask you. What's your best referral source? Besides
Yeah.
your marketing? I know your marketing is, and we're going to talk about that next,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, we do, I do a webinar every month, and I
Mhm.
call it the Deeper Dive webinar series. And I used to do one webinar, and I just keep doing it over again, and it was boring for me, and I'm sure it was boring for them. So I decided to take each section of what we do. Not surprisingly, it's a 4-part series, and so I do one called The Freedom Point, which is on retirement planning. I do one called Getting Your House in Order, which is about estate planning. I do one about management succession, and I do one about maximizing business value. And I have the same beginning and end for each one of them the same. There's a QR code. They can take a picture of it right on their computer, and it creates an email. And the email is to Mark, to me. And all they do is have to hit that little blue button, that arrow, and send it. And so the thing of it is that most of the people, John, that come to the webinar are not business owners. They're people I met at Exit Planning Institute at our local chapter. I volunteer as the president of that group right now. And I get them from people that I network through LinkedIn and using Sales Navigator and what have you. And that is how I get the referrals. Is I ask them. I know that they're all non-business owners on the webinar because I see the list and who's signed in, and so when they send the email, I know they're not really looking for some sort of an initial consultation, but they're saying I was here, and so when I reach back out to them, I ask them if I can spend a half an hour to an hour with them to tell them exactly how I can help their clients. And basically, I take them through the 4-part sales process, and then I ask one key question.
What's that?
Who is the next person that you can think of that might benefit the most from going through this process? And there is only one person that's the next person. And by asking that question, instead of asking of all the people you know and work with, who's the next one that you could make a referral on this to? And that seems to be the most successful.
Good question. Excellent question. You said you have Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Yeah.
I have had a lot of issues with Sales Navigator. It seems like every time you talk to one of these LinkedIn experts, their process for Sales Navigator is reach out to 120 people a week, ask them to be your friends. If they're your friend, if they friend you, then send them a message saying you want to have a cup of coffee. And if they say yes, set up a meeting. You have no idea if these people are qualified. I mean, I know how to sort the database to start with, but you have no idea whether you want these people as a client. How do you use Sales Navigator so that it works for you?
Well, I use Sales Navigator to mine the list, and I have our office is in Minnesota, and we just go out state by state from Minnesota, and all of the business owners who meet certain criteria. You're not able to put in there that they have X number of EBITDA, for example, you have to kind of project that they might have the right kind of EBITDA if they've got a payroll with 11 to 50 employees, for example.
Yeah, I do employees. I also do number of years in the current with the current title.
Yeah, well, that's a good one, and we're looking for 15 years plus on that. And basically you're able to kind of hone in on a business owner that's probably going to be likely to be. And then what we do is we put those all on a lead list. They have that service inside there. And then we send out through there, you can get their email address on if they've put that in there, and we can use that a little bit to send out some information. But basically we kind of use it to look at who might know them, right? So who do I know that knows them? And then we kind of do it a little. We don't use these processes of 120 names a week because like you say, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's not a good use of my time. Yeah,
I don't need to be jammed up with all these people that may or may not become. So usually when I do the sales close, the process that we use, I only have to give 2 or 3 or 4 of those a month because the close rate's so high. And so if we've really narrowed in on who knows them and who can make an introduction and make a referral, it usually paves the way.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. I'm glad to know you don't have to reach out and ask them all to be your friends.
No.
By the way, and I said I was going to do it when we came back and I forgot. Give us your contact information. I know it'll be on the piece and on the podcast, but also if somebody's just listening in the car, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, one way you can do is email me at mark@exitwithboss.com.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. Or you can use mark.hegstrom@businessownersuccessionstrategies.com.
That's less
That's
easy.
hard. That's also our website. So, we are financial advisors. We have a traditional wealth management company called Waterfront Financial Group. We have a page on that website that says that we serve business owners, and we have B.O.S.S on there. And you click on that and it takes you to businessownersuccessionstrategies.com. And that's a whole nother DBA that we have and use to position ourselves more in the exit planning arena rather than financial planning. I always kind of joke when I'm on the golf course, around the 5th hole, somebody says to you, "So what do you do, Mark?" Well, I used to say, "I'm a financial advisor." That was the shortest conversation in the history of time. The only shorter one is, "I'm an insurance agent." Kidding. No. But that, what happened is I changed that and I said, I look at them and I say, we help business owners exit their business. And they all turn their head like that. And they said, "Really? Boy, that sounds interesting. We're still talking about it on the 16th hole." One of my best clients came from a conversation like that. Instead of me prospecting him, I stayed in my lane, and he ends up referring me to the ideal client. Who became a client. Yes.
Yeah, my elevator speech, which they say now should be down to 6 seconds because of our internet attention span, is, "I'm in the getting out of business.
I like that. I'm in the getting.
If you want something that just starts a conversation, that usually gets them to go, "Huh?"
Right.
Love to have you back. Love to do this again.
Sure.
This time frame is too short to really dig into some of the stuff we want to dig into. I think we're going to start doing some panels too. But last question, you're a CEPA. You see how many CEPAs are coming out of EPI on a monthly basis. The other organizations, IEPA and BEI, are also gearing up to mint as many more train people, which is great because there's far too many business owners for us to handle.
Right.
But for a brand new exit planner, somebody that says, yes, I want to get into this, what's the one piece of good advice you'd give them to get started?
Yeah, I will tell you, I have given this advice many times, and I would say that if you have not done your own exit plan, then don't shoot your silver bullet on your best prospect. First, start your own exit plan. Start with your own date. When are you going to commit to yourself to commit to a date and say, look, I mean, you know how old you are, you know how old you're going to be at 65 or 67 or 70. And look at yourself and look at what you do. If you're a financial planner, for example, well, that's what you do is financial planning. Exit planning is financial planning in a different box.
Yeah.
A different package on it. And so do yourself first so that you know how this all works before you go giving advice to somebody else about something you just learned about.
I'll attest to that, Mark, from personal experience. My wife and I were going overseas for a few weeks last year, towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
And my staff came to me and said, well, we are exit planning people. What's the continuity plan if if the ship goes down or the plane goes down or the camel goes down, any of the various forms of transportation we were using? And I had to sit down and go through how this company operates without me.
Yeah.
And it's a sobering exercise.
Yes,
it really is. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. We'll do this again soon. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Mark Hegstrom from B.O.S.S, Business Owner Succession Strategies. And Mark, I'll be seeing you, I see you in Scottsdale?
Absolutely, at the EPI Summit meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll see you there.
We'll see you there in May.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir.